Hi guys, Kate here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is the start of a new series that I've been thinking of doing for quite some time now, and it's gonna be called Propagation Methods. So in every episode I will try my best to explain why should you use a certain propagation methods, how to do it, what are the pros, the cons, and everything they should know about it. I think there will be like 4 or 5 episodes, I'm not sure, and I will only be talking about the methods that I've personally used and tried out. So I won't be like talking about something that I've never tried in my life before. So that's, I guess, a little intro to this series. So the first episode today is gonna be air layering. I do have my trusty notebook here because I have written all the stuff down that I want to mention just so I don't forget anything. So I guess let's jump into it. So what is air layering? So air layering is a method where you use sphagnum moss. So you will wrap it around the node, and what this will do, it will kind of promote the root growth of the aerial roots, or like pre-existing aerial roots out of the stem. You will also wrap this moss in some sort of plastic bag just so you keep the humidity high at all times, because it is extremely important when propagating that you don't have big humidity shifts, because aerial roots, especially those fine hairs, can get dry out real fast, and once they do, you'll kind of have like a black end on the root which won't grow anymore. So this is something you should keep in mind. So why is this one of the methods that I suggest the most? It's actually one of the fastest methods to propagate, just because you're doing on the plant prior to cutting it. So it means that the mother plant will be putting its energy into producing aerial roots. So now we're gonna go through all of the pros. So air layering, you're tricking the plant that it has reached some sort of medium that it can attach itself onto. So let's say moss balls, the ground, or extremely humid area, even like the bark. It's in plants' nature to shoot out roots just so they can attach and absorb as much nutrients as they possibly can. And it's also way less stressful. The cutting that you will take will already have a developed root system, and what this means is it's gonna be faster to acclimatize and start growing again. It will be better at fighting infections. So let's say your cutting gets a bit of rot and it already has a developed root system, it will be better at fighting that other than, let's say, an unrooted cutting with no aerial roots. And it's also faster because the mother plant will be giving its energy into producing those aerial roots, because a cutting that doesn't have any, so let's say you just have a cutting with axillary bud and basically no roots, that cutting may sometimes even sacrifice the leaf that it has just so it can produce aerial roots and a new shoot. So air layering is a method that I would suggest using with plants that are harder to root, just because it is a fail-proof method. It's really one of the easiest and requires the least work you can do. You don't have to pay a lot of attention to it, your plant won't rot. But with every method, there are also some of the cons that you should consider, but I think that's just in general when cutting your plants. So when you take cuttings of your plant, you should always let the cut callus over. So this way a plant will kind of produce a barrier which will stop all of the microbes and fungus and anything that wants to attack the plant. But that generally goes for any of the propagations. You probably should leave a cut exposed to not very humid air for at least a day. It also depends on the stem size. So another con of this is that nodes that are closer to the growth tip are gonna be rooting much faster than, let's say, nodes that are on the bottom of the stem. And this is because there are different concentrations of hormones on this plant, and 2 specific ones that are regulating those are auxins and cytokinins. So auxins are hormones that are produced by the growth tip, and then they're gradually transformed down the stem. They're inhibiting axillary buds. So what this means is the plant will only be growing up, and any of the side shoots will kind of just get suppressed by the auxins. But what happens when you cut the growth tip, cytokinins will come in play, and they will actually start producing lateral buds. They'll start waking up, so your plant will actually start branching out. Now one of the bottom nodes will kind of wake up and start growing, and it will eventually become a main branch. Another con, I mean, it's not really a con, but just, air layering, the plant doesn't look the most beautiful or like aesthetic, or I don't know what you people want to call it, but I personally don't mind it just because I know it's one of the best methods and I've had great success with it. This here is my Philodendrons blended. I've air layered it before I went on vacation, so This moss has been in here for 2 weeks, and honestly, when I got home I didn't expect any of the best results just because it was so hot, it keeps drying out. But even though I didn't expect much, I already got results and I'll actually show you, because I do have to remoisten the moss. What a phrase! So what I've done here is I've took the top note, which was this one. This is the leaf that unfurled when I was away, and I've wrapped it in wet sphagnum moss. It wasn't like wet but moist, which has now turned to dry. So I do wonder what's in here, because I do see some aerial root growth. So let's take a closer look. So this right here was the node that I air layered, and you can actually see that it has started producing longer aerial roots than it would normally if I didn't air layer it. The plant has kind of grown into a moss, but I have found that since keeping it in household humidity, it's very hard to keep it moist and to keep the roots constantly growing, so this is why I decided to kind of air layer it. So this is one example of air layering, not the best one, but you know, just it's in initial stage. I do have a better example, which is Philodendron Alchocorad. I have been air layering this one for quite some time now, and I know there are results because I have seen crazy roots from this guy, and I was meaning to check it just to see the extent that they have grown, because I do want to cut it, and when I cut I want to be left with this leaf. This is the first leaf that grew in my care, and it's already pushing out another one. Yeah, this is what you'd call a proper air layering. I think I will get you a close-up later on, but it has roots that are longer than 10 centimeters and they're already growing all the way down to the pot. So if I wanted to cut that right now, I could. If you cut it prior to when the leaf is unfurling, you can actually stunt the growth a bit, and sometimes the leaf may even die. I will also be air layering this node here. This is the fresh one that kind of showed with this leaf. So this is the choco that I air layered. It's a day after I filmed the previous part, but this is the new leaf and it's kind of unfurling already. I just want to show you a closer look of the air layering because it can look ugly, and this is what I mean by ugly. Yes, you can make it prettier, but this is what I had on hand and this is what I've done with it. So as you can see here, this is the newest node that I was talking about air layering. And I've put the moss all over here and a plastic bag around it just so it keeps the humidity high. This part has already been air layered for probably a month, and as I mentioned, there is a significant root growth, but I just don't feel like disturbing everything. I forgot to film yesterday, so this is why I'm just doing a close-up of it now. So I guess this was it for this video. I hope it wasn't all over the place and it will make some sense. If I forgot anything, I will add it. So let me know in the comments down below if you have already tried air layering, what were your results with it. So I hope you enjoyed. So if you did, please like and subscribe, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye!